Hello, and welcome again to our podcast, Bullseye Nuclear, where we talk about unapologetic truth. This is an arm of Empowered to Change, and we want to welcome today Derrick Miller. He is an amazing man. I can't wait for you to hear some of his lived experiences and his why of why he is here and why he does what he does. So, in honor of Black History Month and in honor of this fine executive of Empowered to Change International, I want to welcome Derrick Miller and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
So, as we are just getting real here on our podcast, I want to ask you a couple of questions. I know you, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I know you really, really well, it's probably a good, what, five, right?
Okay, true.
It
That's a
hasn't,
true.
is that fair?
That's fair.
So, I want to ask a couple of things about what led you up to this place at Empowered to Change, where you get up every day, you serve other people, you pour into broken people.
Hmm.
And I just want to give you the floor as to, I know the jobs you came from,
Right.
but I don't know the why. And so I want to start there, but then I also want to segue into um, Black History Month and what is your take on that and what is your view? Because um, I want to hear more about that. I want the listeners to really understand why we celebrate Black History Month and really how can we do more?
Okay. How can we do more?
How can
All
we do
right.
more? What do we need to change? What do we need to do? So there
All
you
right.
go. Not a tall order for you today.
Not at all. Not at all. So you asked me what brought me here to
Yeah.
Empower to Change. A little bit of my why. It's a long road, to be quite honest. Um, Probably started before I even realized, what was going on. I come from a pretty strong family,
Okay.
but it didn't start off that way because I've come from a teenage mother and a teenage father, both who struggled with alcohol and drug addictions.
Hmm.
I had a great grandmother and great grandmother that really, while they were struggling in their addictions, kind of walked me towards the right path. Now they didn't do it by themselves because, of course, they introduced me to a relationship with the Lord.
Okay.
But did I know that at the time? No.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but knowing that and seeing my father's addiction, my mother's addiction, and the things that had pulled us apart from each other. I mean, I at one point really didn't want to have a relationship with my mother because of her addiction.
Okay.
It was just not worth it to me. It was, you're dragging myself and the family down because you're so hooked on this substance.
And what age did you notice that? Like, when did you notice that this was not healthy for you?
I would say somewhere 13, 14, 15, when I was watching when,
Okay.
I had sporting events and no one was there.
Mm,
Or, when I went around my mother, and it was more about them going and partying when my father chose to do everything but be there for me.
right.
So for me, it was like, okay, let me figure this out on my own.
Okay.
And I don't want a part of either of you. Show
Mm-hmm.
you honor and respect for being my
Sure.
parents,
Sure.
but I don't want a part of you because you didn't want a part of me.
And you figured that out at an early age.
I had to figure it out.
Right.
When you're put in those situations, you have to figure out things
Okay.
immediately. And not say my view was perfect,
Hey.
but it put walls around me.
Okay.
And so with these walls, I kind of walked through and went with that seen but not heard
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. And that was with every walk. That
Yeah.
was in my friendships. That was in my relationships with my families. And that was, being afraid to use my voice because, again, just what you did, you never knew what was going to happen. So, um,
So you built some walls.
major walls.
Isn't that interesting how it will trickle on into just like everything else?
It trickled into everything.
Wow.
Relationships, not knowing what it really meant or felt like to be loved or what even love is.
Okay.
So
That's real.
Yeah,
That's
so
real. And
I mean that's the backstory.
right. Okay.
But in that and through that, over the years, I was blessed with two daughters, and I'm married and divorced. So I was divorced and then remarried, and
Mm-hmm.
then through that divorce, I saw pain that I inflicted on somebody else
I
by decisions
understand.
that I made based on things that I saw growing up,
Yeah.
thinking that was the right way, even though I couldn't stand it when I
Mm-hmm.
was in it. I did the same thing.
Totally understand that.
Um, and so I went through that. And then again, my relationship with the Lord, it just, when my daughters were born, it started again. It
Mm-hmm.
started to simmer. Because the one thing that I knew that they did right was introduce me to the Lord.
Okay.
Now, did they walk perfect and have a good path or
Yeah.
everything? No.
And I don't, none of us, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Not
I
at
don't know what
all.
that
Yeah.
is.
But it was just one thing I knew that I needed to introduce.
Yeah.
What I didn't know is in bringing them into that environment that it was going to have an effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I've went through my professional career, working in different areas of managing people, not being the manager, being the manager, working for people that just were pursuing money, that
Mm-hmm.
didn't fulfill me.
Okay.
There was no fulfillment in that.
Yeah.
I have no impact on anyone. It was just Derrick's the boss. He's doing what they said. And whether I agreed or not,
Didn't matter.
didn't
Right.
matter. Just do it.
You got paid though.
I got paid. I had
Mm-hmm.
benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I had everything. It
Mm-hmm.
looked good on paper,
Right.
but inside it didn't feel good. And
Mm.
that's not who I was.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll share how we met.
Please. Please,
So
because I personally believe in divine intervention,
yeah,
and I've never met and hired somebody like that.
yeah, it was
It's like,
pretty,
whoa,
pretty,
what? Where are you?
yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard that you were, looking for a position.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted my resume, but I think you had already hired someone for the spot.
Mm-hmm.
One of my colleagues. And so one morning we
Mm-hmm.
were at a meeting together, a prayer
Mm-hmm.
meeting.
Right. So I'm going to chime in
Yeah.
so our listeners understand when when there's a position that comes open just in the last year, I thought, I used to, and I still do, we just advertise it everywhere. But I kind of upped our game a little bit and I started sending it out to colleges and community churches and also any community nonprofit places where I'm just like mad posting,
Yeah.
whatever comes up.
Hmm.
And I got a response just from this particular church that
Hmm.
I was, hadn't been attending very long. But I'm going to tell you, I sent it to half a dozen churches and half a dozen other places. So the fact that I got a response and it was you, and I didn't know who you were.
No, not at all. We
So
didn't know each
that's
other.
just some backstory right there.
Yeah. So
So
found
we
out you.
went
Yeah.
we were at a prayer meeting,
Prayer. We
right?
were at prayer meeting. You were leaving.
I was leaving. It's a morning. I
It's a
don't,
morning, like
it's a morning. Never
7.
had really seen you.
I can't say I'd ever seen you
Right.
until you walked
I
back
think
into the meeting.
somebody said, "Now that's Derrick."
Okay.
And I walked, or no, no, nobody even said
I
that.
don't think so.
I, I, somebody I had asked like a week or two before, "Hey, who is this person?" "Oh,
Okay.
he's on a worship team."
Yeah.
So I think that was the back of that. But then when I walked past you, walked out the door, it was in my heart, go back in. That's who that is.
Yeah.
So
And
you
that's
can
how.
take it from
I'm about to
there.
say that's how it happened. You
Yeah.
walked in. You introduced yourself. We had a conversation. You asked me to come and just kind of see what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, when I came in and just saw what you did, there was just, I'll say, a light switch went on.
Okay.
Or even better, maybe the tinder at the bottom of a fire. It
Okay.
just started smoldering a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I need to know more. I need to see more. I need to help out. I need to volunteer. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason that I needed to do that was because of my past. Because I told you briefly about my mother,
Right.
but my mother has now been sober for over 28 years.
That's
And my
awesome.
mother had went from being addicted to being a master social worker counselor, and she counsels people in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And my father also went to be a licensed social worker. He didn't deal with recovery or addiction, but that's what he did, and it just seems like something about that
Wow.
just resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And in my role in my previous career, I did more counseling and coaching than I did probably what they asked me to do, if that makes sense.
Yes. And is that fulfilling for you?
That's what it is,
Yeah.
because people need guidance, they
Mm-hmm.
need direction,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think they get enough of it. There's healthy direction, there's healthy counseling, and I feel this place here, uh, we're unapologetically um, in your, I won't say in your face, but direct
In your business.
in your business,
Yes.
but not in a point that we're trying to use it against you,
No, no.
but in a way that we're trying to transfer, turn around, and shape you and point you into the right direction that maybe you missed on the way.
And that when you say right direction, a direction that they want to go, they want that they get to speak into, hey, I want to, this is not who I want to be in this place. And you mentioned your mom and your dad, and here's what I see too. I'm very thankful for our licensed therapists. I happen to know that licensed therapists, they are overwhelmed post COVID.
Yeah.
They are maxed out. They need more people. They're
Yeah.
overwhelmed. But what I am also seeing happen is that people like your mom and dad that have turned their life around,
Mm-hmm.
they are into social work.
Yeah.
And here's what anybody has that is maybe even not a licensed therapist, but what you have is your lived experience.
100%.
And everybody's lived experience can be turned into something that will help another person. And
Agreed.
You don't need a license for
Oh,
that.
no.
Your experience gives you the license for that,
100%.
right?
My experience
Yes.
and everyone's experience.
Yes. And I remember when you first came and you wanted to volunteer. Listen, Coral and I, we volunteered for the first several months. And most people that joined this organization started off volunteering,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because it is, I say it's, and I don't mean this pridefully, it's not for the weak,
Not at all.
right? Because if you're going to enter in an organization to speak into people's lives, speak into people's broken lives, we ourselves have to be willing to change. And that is a continual thing. It's not a one and done. It's not a, oh, we've arrived. We've never arrived,
No.
right?
It's a process.
It's a process. And I remember you saying, boy, it's not easy to work here.
It's not.
And I said, oh, I know. And I almost wanted to go, I'm so sorry. But at the same time, I'm not sorry because that's what it is. Life is hard.
Yes, it is.
And we're constantly growing together. We have to walk in truth and our truth too, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And we can't expect broken people that enter in our program to change and to be willing to be held accountable and to be honest and all of that if we ourselves are not. So
That's a true point, true statement. Because you grow up and it's you grow up, you get a career, you get a job,
right,
and so if
get a paycheck,
you get a paycheck. So if your mindset is job, paycheck,
advance
advance,
financially,
yeah,
get up the
get up the
ladder.
ladder,
Mm-hmm.
and now you've made it.
Right.
But have you really made it? I mean,
Well, what have you made? More money, more stress.
Potentially lose family, all these different things. But
Right.
here, it's not about that. It's about you grow. You think
Yes.
you're here to help people grow?
Exactly.
No, you grow, because you can't talk to someone about something if you're not working on you.
Right.
You don't even know that you're working on you sometimes.
Mhm.
But if I'm gonna sit across from
That's
someone and have a
real.
conversation with them, um, I have to check myself,
Yes.
right? And I have to check myself, and they need to know that I've had a past, that I've walked on the other side. It wasn't a hop, skip, and a jump. It was a journey, but you
Mhm.
got to be willing to push through that.
And there's no perfection. There
No.
never is. We never arrive.
Oh no, you just
Like when we're dead.
you keep getting better.
Right.
Keep taking steps to improve.
And we learn and then we share what we've learned.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so So my journey is it's been I'll say rocky up and down,
Hmm.
but I think that
That's fair.
everyone's journey
Yeah,
is rocky and up and down. And if you tell me it's not, I question your integrity,
that's right.
because we all have a story.
We do.
And being here, I've seen a lot of stories.
And wouldn't you say that one of our main themes is no shame? We don't receive the shame
No.
because um, I can assign shame in my own life and
Hmm.
my own struggles and my own things. But then that's not going to help me and it's not doing anybody any favor.
True.
So it's like, and it's this incredible dichotomy, if you will, just to deal with issues and identify that so many of us have in the past walked in shame. So many people we pour into have shame, guilt.
Oh yeah.
Like you mentioned, a first marriage. I
Hmm.
understand.
Hmm.
And we can't go back in time. We can only learn and remove and reject the shame
Yeah.
and then continue on in our own growth and then helping others.
100%. Shame is a big deal.
Yeah,
Um, People walk in it. Some people are just, I don't know, it's like they're saturated in it.
right.
And just to be able to pull and work with them to pull that away,
Mm-hmm.
it's a process.
Yeah,
But if you're going to pull it and help them through that process, you have to work through your own
right.
as well.
I love it.
And so, yeah. I,
So I would like to kind of segue because
okay.
it's not even a switch. It's
Hmm.
a segue into um, Black History Month. You are a very wonderful, professional, accomplished Black man.
Hmm.
Is that a safe thing? I told you before we started, I'm like, I am so not qualified to be talking to anybody and
Right.
asking them about their Black heritage. I feel very ill equipped, and
Hmm.
I'm just being transparent with that.
Yeah, I get it.
Um, I so but that's okay because I'm leaning into that conversation and I know that we have such a great respect for one another, for our families.
Yes.
We have, we're brothers and sisters
100%.
in Christ. That's who we are. And that goes way deeper than the color of our skin and the heritage. At the same time, I want to talk about it. And you had said a few things before we started, and I just want to give you the floor to talk about that because I'm like, oh, I didn't know February was Black History Month. And you didn't say it this way, but it's kind of like, yeah, till the beginning of time. You didn't say it like that. So February is my birthday month, and I'm just being selfish,
Yeah.
maybe,
Right.
and Valentine's Day
Hmm.
and lots of other things. So let's talk about it. And why is it only 1 month? Why, like, what is that about?
I, well, I'm not gonna. I can't really say why it's only 1 month. I guess I could say they picked the month, um, and a lot of other. Um, all I can say is that's the month they picked. But we have, Asian American month. We have Hispanic month and everything. And as I was saying to you, a month. If we're talking about the United States of America,
Right.
for anyone is not enough. We should celebrate Americans.
Yes,
No matter how the whole thing went down, we should be celebrating
that's right.
Americans. And so, yeah, it's a month, and you see it plastered on TV screens or whatever, and people question it. But it surprises me that people question it, and I think they question it because they don't really want to know about it. Um,
Which that surprises me. I want to know everything about to know in about not only America, but different backgrounds because we all came from somewhere,
we did all come
right?
from somewhere, but in my situation of being a Black American,
Yes.
um, I think that it's there's I'm just gonna say it. I think there's shame in the way that everything went down, not from my position,
Mm-hmm.
but from the powers to at be at the time
Okay.
on how it went down. And
There's
so,
that word again.
well, I mean, we're at
Yeah.
shame, and if I can cover up what I did or not give complete truths
Mm-hmm.
about how things went down,
Mm-hmm.
um, then I don't have to feel guilty
Uh-huh.
for what I've done.
Right.
And then it's just been a generational thing.
Right.
Because really, for anyone to get better, to be whole, to be healed, you need to have the truth.
That's right.
And so if there's no truth in it,
100%. We got to get to the truth.
and not bits and pieces,
And it might be ugly, and it
it
is
it's
ugly.
ugly,
It's
right?
very
It's
ugly.
ugly. I mean, I'm fortunate to know that my family, at least on my grandmother's side, that they were slaves. I
Yeah.
know that they were in Mississippi.
Okay.
I know that my family, my great grandfather, moved his family from Mississippi to Chicago, Illinois, just for a chance.
Okay.
I know that from that point on, they came to the town that I grew up in, and they were able to establish. And I guess in our world, came from, even though what I explained in the beginning, an affluent
Mm-hmm.
African American family,
Okay.
but there's still way more history than
Right.
that I don't even know. That I don't know. I don't know. Have a clue.
And why is that not in our textbooks? Why is that history? Because I know it hasn't been in the textbooks and I went to public
Mm-hmm.
school. I was not a
Mm-hmm.
private school kid.
Okay.
But why do you think that that's not in our textbooks? I mean, we need to be studying and getting to the truth and knowing, because I 100% agree with you that if we don't get to the truth, then how can we apply grace and forgiveness
Right.
and change, right?
It'll be very
Because we need
difficult.
to change.
Well, we need to change. We need to. Why is it not in the history or not in the textbooks, or why do people not know? You, if a young person in an area that's let's just say not maybe in poverty. Let's say a poverty
Okay.
area. So I come from that area. So this is all I've seen, right?
Okay.
So I go to school and I get a textbook, and it says your family you come from a line of servants, slaves, so on.
Okay.
What do you look at then? What is your goal? You don't really know what your goal is because you've never seen somebody do something better than be servants and slaves. You've been pretty much told this is who you are.
This is who you are.
This is who you are.
This is where you come from, and this is who you are.
So if I keep you in that mindset,
Right.
then you're going to always be a worker.
Mm.
You're going to always be someone that works and keeps the wheel turning. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There are prominent African American men and women
Sure.
that they speak out of, and they let you know about. But it's little hits and misses. And if you think about some of the most prominent African Americans that were prominent, successful, making impact, what happened to them?
Right.
They were killed.
Right.
Know why?
Wow.
Because they had a way, in my opinion, of
Yeah.
course,
No.
they had a way of
This is
pulling
good.
people up.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're pulling people up, you're a threat to the status quo.
And you bring something up where you're a threat to the status quo. You're a threat to the political agendas,
There
right?
it is.
And giving hope to other people. When somebody like that gives hope to other people, then all of a sudden the powers that be are all of a sudden they don't have control, because what can you do with hope? You can't control hope.
100%.
You can't control somebody. I heard, and this ties right into what we're discussing here. I heard just recently, and I never heard it like this. I always kind of knew it, but the most scientific, the most dynamic piece of technology is our brains, is our minds. And scientists are trying to figure it out. They're trying to duplicate it, enter in AI, all of these things, right?
Right.
But like you're saying, you take a people group that's been enslaved,
Yeah.
oppressed,
Yeah.
abused. You just take this people group. And then what happens when they start going, hey, this is not who I am. And then they understand, oh wow, I'm created by God. I'm created with a purpose. Doesn't matter the color of my skin. Doesn't matter where I came from. I have hope and I'm going to change where I'm going.
Oh yeah.
And then that's where the panic really happens, right?
Yeah. Well, my father, God rest his soul. One of the things he said to me, I'll never forget it. He's like, Derrick, one of the worst things that's ever happened in America, you have slavery and all that, was when um, they started giving out um, public aid,
Oof.
food stamps, things to that effect, to
Mm.
to our community.
And
He's
your
like,
father
and
says
my
this.
father said that, and
Okay.
I was like, "What are you talking about? It's helping people."
Mm-hmm.
And he says it's helping people learn how to do it without the presence of the father.
Mm.
Because if a mother is struggling
Right.
and she's able to make it without the father, what happens with that mindset?
And what
I,
happens to the family dynamic that needs that dad?
it's not there. And
Wow.
so once that's gone, I don't need you because I can do it on my own. Dad doesn't feel needed. Then I won't even go on the war on drugs, but
Right.
but
But
but then
feel free.
you go down that road where
Mm-hmm.
you know um, an African American sells crack
Mm-hmm.
and a Caucasian sells powder.
Okay.
They're both cocaine,
Yeah.
but one's in jail forever and one can get slapped on the hand.
Right.
And in that change,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and I can't remember the statistics, but I think back in the '60s, when my dad was growing up, 70% of men were in their homes.
Hmm.
And now we look at today,
And today.
70% of homes are without men.
Yes.
They all
Across the board,
across the
right?
board. Yeah,
Regardless.
I can only speak on
Because I don't
African
have the
Americans.
stats on that either.
Yeah, I just I'm kind of paraphrasing what I know,
Sure. Sure.
what I've read, and I've been looking strictly at the African American community or impoverished community. So that's not just African Americans
Sure.
as well. And so I just think that the powers that be have had a masterful plan on keeping people in their place. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
that way it doesn't shake up the status quo.
Right.
Um,
That's
I,
that's real. And I honor your voice in
yeah,
that. And I do like stats, and we can actually do another segment at another time because I want to study these stats. I want to get back on and talk about it,
yeah,
and maybe even get somebody else on here as well, like a panel, to
yeah,
say, listen, what's going on? Because I believe that we are in this era where change is happening,
yeah,
and I have such hope because I believe that you and I, and everybody that has this mindset that um, we can honor one another, we can love one another, we can celebrate one another
yeah.
and make changes.
Oh, 100%.
And the um, any political agenda that's trying to stifle free thinking, stifle and manipulate, we have the hope and the power to change that.
Yes, yes, we do. I mean, we certainly do. I just, I like to honor every nationality.
Yes,
I'd like to know the truth about everybody.
I
Um,
think that's
I think that's the
awesome.
only way that we can really become and be who the Lord planned, had
Mhm.
out for us to be.
So you mentioned the Lord. Um, will you share when you realized that you needed God? Will you share that?
Yeah,
Just because I know you, I know me, I know that we have commonality in Christ,
yeah,
that he is our hope. I know that.
yeah,
He is our reason, he is our savior, and we're free to talk about that. We're also free to honor and respect other people's choices
yeah.
and what they want to believe. But will you share how, your faith and how you came to believe what you believe?
Uh, I want to say initially I believed because I was brought up in it,
Okay.
and then like most I stepped away.
Okay.
Um, But then for me, as I was mentioning, when my oldest daughter was born, I started slowly getting and dabbling into trying to understand what is this really? Not what my mother showed me or grandmother, but what is it to me?
Mm.
And I mentioned my divorce. So during my divorce, that's probably when it really started. The Lord really started speaking to me.
Okay.
You know, are you this person that's going to continue to hurt people?
Mm.
Are you going to continue to um, use people for your gain? You
Mm.
know,
That's good.
is that who I created you to be? And I started meeting more men who were showing me something I'd never seen, what it means to be a man, but what it means to be a godly man, how to show
Mm.
people respect,
That's
how to
good.
walk in integrity and honor. Um, was it an overnight thing? No. So
Right.
just
Never
no.
is.
But I would say within the last 5 years, it went from a slow pace to a jog, and now I'm running. I'm running to the Lord. And in the last 5 years, it's just continuously gotten deeper and deeper. Um, you know, the place where we met, um,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably been the place where it just is really like I've been taken deeper. I've been covered with more water.
Whew.
As you know, I
That's
mean, I
good.
went from walking on the shoreline,
Okay.
and from the shoreline, I continue to walk out, and my water's getting deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And as the water gets deeper, it requires more of me, and because I can't stay afloat, you know, without a little help, and the Lord's helping me stay afloat. I can come up for some air, but I need to be in that deep water
Mm-hmm.
so I can
It's
learn how
hard
to
being
get.
in that deep
I need
water.
to be in that deep so I can learn how to
Mm.
get and maneuver in it, but
And there's
do it
no
from
boat. I
no
mean,
boat.
let's just
No,
talk
yeah,
about
there's no
that.
boat.
There ain't no
Yeah, no
boat.
boat.
Yeah.
But with him, I can maneuver and manage it.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I mean, I could go on and on about that, but I'm just saying I'm still in that journey, in that process, and that process being here, empowered to change, and working with these people. It
Mm-hmm.
really is just a part of the next step where he's taking me.
Yes.
I don't know where he's taking me. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know.
We know about today.
We know about right
We
now.
don't know about tomorrow. And I think as we're wrapping up, I think COVID really taught me
Yeah,
that when legit the world shut down in less than a week,
yeah,
I went, "Oh, wow." Like no one would have fathomed that,
no,
right?
not at all.
The whole world,
Couldn't even believe it.
not a state, not half the country, not the United States, the entire world.
Yeah, the world shut down.
So we know that today we we work with today. We know that in front of us we have people that are putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah,
And I have such respect for really the people that we serve and our staff that
yeah.
serves them
Oh yeah.
because you whoa,
Incredible
it's
staff, incredible group
incredible,
of people.
really.
Right? The people that come in, you know, looking for help. The people that don't even know that they're wanting or needing help.
I know. I know. And we're going to talk more about the remarkable culture
Okay. Yeah.
at a different time, but I um thank you for coming on here.
No, you're
I
welcome.
want to know more. I want to spend another hour or two, but I think that this will give our listeners just a glimpse
Mhm.
of wow, what's going on over here,
Yeah.
and to honor you, to honor Black History Month, but to also spur others to go, wait a second, what do we need to change about this? You
Yeah.
know, why are we just celebrating? I think we should celebrate people
People. Hmm.
daily. Celebrate in wherever we go, not just be a fad, not just be a, oh, it's this month, let's, you know, have a cake,
Advocate. Yeah.
right? Um, but we start somewhere, and I believe that even just talking about it, even just sharing it um, with the listeners around the state and the country, and we are reaching beyond our borders.
Yeah.
So hey, let's just keep on doing that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm
So
good.
thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks
All
for having
right.
me.
Thank you. And thank you guys for listening. And we so appreciate each and every one of you. Please hit the subscribe button if you are on YouTube. And we also have a QR code at the end of this where you can scan and learn more about Bullseye Nuclear and also Empowered to Change International. Until next time, you guys, thank you.